Bu bilgiler bilim kurgu olarak görülebilir ya da izleyici nasıl görmek istiyorsa o şekilde olabilir. Bu içeriği yalnızca eğlence amacıyla paylaşıyoruz. Ancak biz, bilgilerimizi çok ciddiye alıyor ve görebilecek gözleri olan herkes için paylaşıyoruz.
Originally in Spanish. Do you know anything about Elon Musk's alleged Starlink satellites? It is said here that Musk's satellites are fake, put in place to cover the operations of Federation ships. I fly atmospheric, never see them, never detect them. They say they are tiny. I don't know. That's what they say, and I believe it. I just know that my nav doesn't see them. And it even informs me of a nut floating around as space junk. If anyone here would see them, it would be me.
Some say they shot down quite a few of those satellites. That it was the deep state? That they were to create a quantum telecommunications network superior to what exists now.
And it is also said that they were destroyed in solar storms or something like that. I insist. I passed by there on February 15th, the last time, and I did not see anything. My nav gives me a detailed map of everything around me. On the 15th, yes, there was a solar storm. But I passed by twice on the 15th, and I was in the air for several hours. That day is the day I spent the most time in the air.
And a solar storm could bring down those satellites?
No. Maybe they were there before. They were shot down. Is it possible? Look, the truth can't be known for sure. But knowing them, I don't think that's true. More fake stuff like the Mars rovers and the car that Musk launched. They wouldn't spend effort to give people anything. It's all theater to distract and make them believe a reality that is not real. The agenda is the same. For nothing to be true. Total confusion. Yes, he comes up with his rockets, but I don't see Starlink anywhere. Being that I would be the first to denounce that this is for mental control using 5G high-speed satellite internet to activate the graphene. Yes, very well. But where are they? I don't see anything, and I pass by there all the time. Isn't it possible that they are in some area you don't pass through or height? No, because they must be in a low orbit. I have to pass through there, and my nav gives me a map of all the objects I have to pass through. Satellites, space stations, and garbage. And it never tells me anything about those little lights shaped as a train in space. Another day. In air. Height 220 kilometers. I look to my left, I look to my right, I look at my nav, and there is no Starlink. I've been looking for Starlink for more than an hour. Unless they are camouflaged as space junk, there is nothing here. Just junk at that altitude.
Yes, they say they would be about 55 kilometers.
I searched from 1,000 and below. They might be emulating them using normal satellites.
I thought that too. They are up to something.
A lot of junk, and that's it. The ISS is there, but there is nobody there according to the life sensors.
And the Chinese ISS?
Also, empty. Another day.
Hi Tina. About Elon Musk's Starlink. Several people tell me the following. Hello Robert. About the Starlinks. I'll tell you something. I've seen them at least 3 times at night. Rows of several dozens, one after the other. I even managed to record them. There are even tracking pages that say the day and time where they will pass above your city. And the following indications they can be seen. Ask please, if they are not satellites as such, what are we seeing? Thank you. What would those lights be that appear in formation?
The average to major traffic of artificial satellites is above the orbital altitude of the Toleka at present, so I don't pass through that concentration, and the Toleka orbit is set so as not to interfere with those satellites. The same thing space agencies do with their stations, such as the ISS and its Chinese equivalent. That's why Toleka and Avion 01 have similar orbits to the ISS. I only looked from 1,000 kilometers down. The satellites do exist. There are conspiracists who say they don't. However, Toleka itself knows about the position of all near-Earth objects, and I am not informed of the existence of anything with Starlink characteristics. However, there are so many satellites in operation that it could very well be that what Starlink does is a product of other satellite technology. As for what they filmed from below, I don't have the definite answer, just theories based on what I observed from here. It could be a blue beam, which is very likely, or it could be that what you have seen are formations of Antares and Centauri fighter crafts, and there are thousands of drones. Yes, they do that kind of operations, which they call carpet covering everything, part of the blockade to Earth. But I don't know what that looks like from below. What I have heard is that it looks like a train of light dots, like this, passing through the night sky. This formation is not very congruent with satellites, because they would be in too close proximity, same orbit. They would need many computers and thrusters controlled by them to maintain that distance between them, always the same. It would be more congruent if they were shown as a matrix of dots covering the sky. The cabal, governments, ending up saying that something artificial that is seen in the night sky is part of something of theirs, something of NASA or whoever, has been used for years. Since basically the creation of NASA itself in 1947, if I am not mistaken. Being that they use very tracking systems of the ISS as a cover or justification for when a non-human ship is so close to Earth that it is visible to the naked eye, as the Taygetans have discovered. It has also been said that those lonely specks seen moving across the night sky for decades are satellites. It is true, some are, because there are large satellites with solar panels that reflect a lot of the sun, mostly during the early evening hours, rarely to never in the middle of the night. But the vast majority of such bright spots are non-human craft of countless races, but mostly Federation, traveling back and forth and sometimes visible when in low orbit or passing close to Earth in space, but not necessarily in orbit. And how are these Starlink satellites supposed to differ from other regular satellites? If others exist, is it possible that those are some of those of Starlink? It is not clear to me, even after research. I understand that they are nanosatellites, tiny ones. The exact size is not clear to me, but they are like 90% of the satellites.
Besides, I don't understand what those at Starlink say, that they launched the satellites on the 3rd and the 4th, a geomagnetic flare affected those satellites.
Yes, there was solar flare, but it does not affect anything, as they say.
So the geomagnetic storm is not possible?
At best, it will generate static to the systems. Basically, what I'm saying is that things in space regarding Starlink are not as people are told. There is something very shady going on there. They say it's these. I look at that image and I see a string of 110 centimeter non-human drones about to move into their positions all over the Earth. I don't see any congruence with telecommunication satellites. Another problem is that they would be in very low orbit, and since there are so many of them, no one would be able to go up without crashing into them. Going up, like Musk says, is like shooting yourself in the foot. It's filling low orbit with junk and objects that will hit other projects and spacecraft and satellites they want to move up. If the orbit is too low, then they will have atmospheric friction and fall off, because the atmosphere is not a defined layer as they tell you there. Rather, it is a gaseous layer that goes from very dense with the hydrosphere, seas, rivers, lakes, and a puddle in the street because it rained, that becomes lighter with the atmosphere at sea level, and from there it becomes progressively less and less dense until it disperses into space. So even at the height of the ISS, it has atmospheric friction. It is not interplanetary space. That would only be reached by going beyond the infamous Van Allen bands. So there is a useful corridor for artificial satellites where they should all be, and that is below the Van Allen bands, but before reaching atmospheric friction that will gradually undermine their orbit until they fall to Earth as space debris. But they won't be able to put anything in an established low orbit range, say the lowest possible without being unstable, because a maintenance corridor is needed for space access, a corridor that Soyuz ships and the now defunct transborders would use. Otherwise, space would be inoperable by having too many objects floating around to collide with. And Starlink is on that maintenance corridor. I mean, it's there because Musk says it is. I don't see anything and I won't budge. I was in flight yesterday for 8 hours straight and I did not find them. I'm sorry this is becoming controversial, but I don't have a reason to lie about it. They are hiding something shady there. It would be convenient for me to say that they are there because they are invasive and because of their connection to the inoculations. I just can't find them, that's all I know. But I am informing you of a lot of movement of Federation ships and drones that are spherical and glow with their electromagnetic plasma engines. Thank you. But there is one point that I can't understand. If they look like other satellites, how do you know you haven't seen them? Maybe they are like other satellites. For these reasons. 1. Because they are not in the orbit set by Musk. 2. Because there is nothing with those numbers of 42,000 all the same. 3. Because the orbit and the number is not congruent with the necessary corridor of access to space for the NASA itself, SpaceX or ESA or Roscosmos or whoever. 4. Because that formation is classic of non-human drones. They are stored in Toleka among other ships in the form of a little train, one behind the other, spheres stored in a tube. They exit like this, deployed in different directions to their surveillance duties. The Earth is plagued by non-human drones. If they are in space, they are satellites. If they are lower down, they are weather balloons.
Astronomers already complain about light pollution.
Yes, I've heard it before. Well, it will be the blue beam or the ships and drones circling the Earth. Well, that one does look like a bird. That image is of a duck or a goose. But they have hit spheres. Even high-tech drones are not perfect, and sometimes they get their navigator confused. There are hundreds of thousands all over the Earth. To me, that's what people are seeing. But I can't know for sure. They run on a small zero-point reactor and electromagnetic plasma engines with gravity cancellers. They have interstellar capability. That's how they are stored on the big ships. But many, one after the other. Then they exit as a train and disperse or move as a group as needed. They are 110 centimeter in diameter, Taygeta's more common ones. But Taygeta has ones the size of a football to get into small places. Very nice example, Robert. Notice the formations. Elon Musk is supposed to have put a car into space. That makes no sense. It's just space junk. It's not affordable. No one will see it. For publicity, for people, better come up with something staged, and that's it. He is a liar. Why do you believe him now with Starlink? Yes, there is satellite internet. Yes, Musk may be launching satellites, which he does. But it is not what they tell the people. They never tell the people the truth, so why believe them now? It all turns out to be cover for other things in space. Things that the cabal, the governments, have to explain with mundane things, or otherwise their show is over. I didn't know about the car. Why the car in space? At least to cover up non-human operations. In summary, I report what I see. I do not have the congruent answer. It is necessary now to connect the dots.